Well, welcome back. And I love that video because I think it catches very well the reason we're here tonight, which really is to celebrate journalism and to train up a new generation of great business journalists. I hope you had a chance to catch up with friends and eat, drink, be merry over the break. Don't forget to put a bid in for those pictures. We are very much here tonight to try and raise support for the program. But now we have the highlight of the evening, which is a chance to hear from Mark Benioff in conversation with Rebecca Blumenstein about what his view of the world and journalism is. You're probably all sitting on Mark's book. You have one of them, each of you, on the seat. If you thought something was a bit weird underneath you, that's what it is. Captures very well the extraordinary story that is Mark Benioff, Trailblazer, as it's called. He's known to most of you as the founder and CEO of Salesforce. He's won numerous awards for his work, not just as a business leader, but also in philanthropy and now trying to reshape capitalism. But the bit that I found most fascinating in his bio is the fact that at age 14, he sold his first piece of software called How to Juggle for, I think, about $700. So any of you who've got kids, tell them to get a move on, because at the age of 14, they too could be selling software. But anyway, we're now going to have Rebecca Blumenstein from the New York Times, deputy manager of the New York Times, grilling Mark Benioff. Over to you, Rebecca.
Come on, don't be...
This is as fast as I go, actually. That's it. Lightning speed. Oh.
So, Mark...
I never know how to sit in these things, by the way.
Don't lean too far back.
No, I don't know. Am I supposed to do the Trump thing like this, or what am I supposed to do?
Just lean forward.
All right.
It'll be fine.
Okay. I'll sit like this.
Okay, that's good. So you've had a big week. You have a new book. You've been calling to reinvent capitalism, business.
I was
Facebook.
in Munich yesterday.
You were in Munich yesterday, yeah. But I have heard from sources that this is your first official journalism dinner. Is that true?
Yes, it is. And it's a great one, by the way. Fantastic. Thank you, and congratulations also to everybody who's receiving awards tonight.
So you bought Time magazine a year ago. You are now, in addition to all of your other accolades, a media mogul. How are you enjoying the media mogul
Mogulhood, how is it going? Is that the question? Yeah. Mogulhood is good.
Did you get lessons from, Jeff Bezos or Lorraine Paul Jobs?
The fellow moguls?
Yes.
I actually haven't consulted with the fellow moguls. Should I be doing that, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, well, one of the questions I have is that you did an essay today. I think you and your wife, Lynn, who's here. So hi to Lynn.
She said not to mention her, but she is right over there.
You came out with an essay about the positive role that journalism can play. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And, there's climate change, activism, homelessness. I guess one of my big questions is, what happens if Time magazine does an investigative story about Salesforce? Are you going to let that go?
I'm not involved with the editorial. We got a badass Edward Felsenthal right over there. Where is he? Stand up, Edward. There he is, editor-in-chief and CEO, Time magazine. By the way, he's hiring. I noticed that this is a great opportunity to recruit as well, so, Hey, that's my side. I'm doing some of that.
So they are free to do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely. And they have a gorgeous new office they just got into today. And in Bryant Park, very excited about that. And they deserve it. They're an amazing team, amazing organization, great brand, doing fantastic journalism. And you know what? We need more trust. We need more trust in the world. We need more truth. And those are the two core values of Time magazine, so I couldn't be more proud to be associated with such a fine group of people.
So you've been making a bunch of headlines in New York today, specifically about Facebook. So let's just go to tech. You, in Davos a couple of years ago, called Facebook akin to cigarettes, highly addictive, and you kind of doubled down today and said that they should be regulated as a publisher.
Well, Facebook is a publisher. You know, Time Magazine has a legal, thank you, don't you agree? Facebook is a publisher. Time Magazine is governed by a set of laws and principles and guidelines, and they write the truth. They write for impact. Of course, there's a monetization plan, and they write for equality. Actually, it's trust, impact, monetization, equality, time, T-I-M-E.
You planned that.
Well, I thought we could name the magazine after it. It was so strong.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, it's late. This is the best I can do.
So what does that mean, though? You are siding with Elizabeth Warren. You think that Facebook, you agree that Facebook needs to be broken up, or what does that mean if you want to abolish Section 230?
Well, I think, number one, you were there January 2018. I said Facebook is the new cigarettes. It's addictive. It's not good for you. They're after your kids. Now you see they're running ads that aren't even true. They don't even care. So if we did such a thing in Time Magazine, you know what everyone in this room would say, right? We're about the truth. We're about trust. Those are not the highest values of Facebook. And then when you get into Section 230, it's a broad air cover for them. Section 230 should be abolished. It's a law that is giving a lot of air cover to a lot of organizations, and basically it's indemnifying them for the content or propaganda that is on their platform. And now is the time that we need to look at a greater focus on trust and truth in this world. By the way, that's why we bought Time Magazine, because journalism is important. We need to double down on the free press. We need to be committed to great journalism, and we need to be committed to the truth, or it's going to be hijacked. And that's what everybody needs to be focused on. And Section 230 is just ramming a train right into the middle of that, saying to some of these organizations, you don't have to worry. You can do whatever you want. That's not right. It's not right. It's actually just not on the right side of history, because we all know where this is going, where this technology is going, where AI is going, and there's a lot of bad actors that are out there who are getting air cover on Section 230. So we need to look at that, and we need to look at Facebook and other social media platforms who are basically propagating this information.
Why are you so focused on Facebook? I mean, there's Google, there's Amazon, which is a customer of Salesforce's, I must say. You haven't been nearly...
They're all customers, actually.
Okay.
But that isn't the issue. The real issue is they're really just a way to explain how I'm feeling. I'm looking for metaphors. That's maybe my whole career, and some of the things that I'm doing, like when we launched Salesforce, tonight we're launching this book, Trailblazer. And the previous book is Behind the Cloud, talked about how we were constantly craving metaphors, like the end of software and how we would explain technology. Really, I'm using that as a way to explain to just somebody who's, I'm working to connect with what I'm trying to say.
So in Silicon Valley, are you feeling that you've got Chris Hughes, you've got people who are in favor of breaking up Facebook and doing some more radical measures. Are you less isolated than you were before? Do you think that opinion is coming to your side?
I think people in Silicon Valley know what's going on. I think that's not really... They know what's happening, and I think the other piece of this is that I'm just giving permission for people to feel and express themselves around this. I mean, when I said this, which was January 18, that was before Cambridge Analytica. If you haven't gone onto Netflix and watched that documentary called, I think, The Big Hack or The Great Hack, and see the depth of what is happening, you have to do that. It's an outstanding piece of journalism. Okay, and it really exposes and shows what it is that we should be thinking about today in regards to the new technology that's all around us, because we are still at the beginning of all this. We are still at the beginning. And where it's going to go is up to a lot of the people in this room. It's up to the people in this room to have a light on it. That's their job. Put a light on it. Really expose what's happening. That's why these people won these great awards tonight. Amazing people who put the light on darkness. And we need a lot more of that right now in this world. We need a lot more light to come in.
So are you siding with Elizabeth Warren in this? Are you consulting with the government? Do you think that Facebook should be broken up into parts, WhatsApp and the various constituents?
I'm not consulting with anybody, but if you want to consult with me, I'm happy to. This is just how I'm feeling about it. And I also don't think I should get involved, and I can't get involved with any of the political candidates, especially in my relationship with Time. I don't think I should have active dialogues, and I certainly can't do funding, which I have done in the past anymore. So that wall has basically come down when we bought Time. And, the way I look at it is, should Facebook be broken up? Absolutely. Because when you look at Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, that's a platform bigger than Android and iPhone combined. And 72% of the US population doesn't understand that Facebook actually owns WhatsApp and Instagram, and they're commingling this data and using that, and you'll see this in this documentary, and it's also well documented, where they created this group where they could figure out the people who are the persuadables to actually impact the election. So this is a moment in time when we all need to wake up, double down on our heart, and really follow it, and listen carefully, and follow the truth. And I think that's I guess, my real message. More than all of the, kind of the story or the narrative or Facebook is the new cigarettes, it's really like, let's just focus on the truth right now.
How worried are you about the upcoming election and misinformation?
Well, I think we all should be worried based on what we've seen, unless we're living in a capsule and not reading anything, which some days I prefer to do, actually. But we should be worried. We should be worried because I think there's a lot of things still that we don't understand about how the technology is shaping us and how the technology is much smarter, than it was even just a couple years ago. Let me give you an example, something that's amazing to me. This is a philanthropic example. So we're doing a lot of philanthropy, and we very care about the ocean, and so we have a drone that's flying right now over the ocean in Santa Barbara, focused on ocean health. It's run by the University of California, Santa Barbara. And the drone is there, and it's using advanced artificial intelligence technology, some that we developed, and it spots a great white shark, okay? And this is on my Twitter feed, you can see this. And the great white shark is moving, and the classification engine, which is part of AI, says, oh, it's a shark. And then the classification engine also says, oh, look, it's a kids surfing camp right here. And they were able to call the beach and have the kids get out of the water, okay? Now, that's the use of AI for good. But technology is never good or bad. It's what we do with the technology that matters. That is the point. And this technology, it is amazing what is happening right now in the world and with technology. We're in this fourth industrial revolution. We all know that. And not just the information technologies, but the biotechnologies as well. It's incredible what's going on, but we have to guide the technology. We have to point it in the right direction. Otherwise, we're going to end up somewhere that we don't want to be.
There was some traffic on Twitter today after you came out against Facebook, basically saying, well, he runs the store that sells the cigarettes. You are one of the biggest cloud computers in the world. So don't you enable this to a certain extent?
Well, I hope not. I really think that, we are definitely a platform, and the ethical use of our products, well, companies can't wash their hands of what people do with their products. That's a key point of ethical use. And that's where I think I've had to double down inside Salesforce over the last, year and a half, 2 years, because as our technology is getting more advanced, how is it being used ethically? What are the ethical implications of our product, of our technology? I mean, that's the question that we just heard, Matt talking about, with McKinsey. It's the same question. Is our product being used ethically? So we set up inside our company the Office of Ethical and Humane Use. We hired a top ethicist. We built a network with the top NGOs and nonprofits in the world who focus in these areas to help guide us. And we've made a number of decisions around ethical use, including, by the way, we no longer sell military weapons and assault weapons through our Commerce Cloud. Our team came to us and said, this is no longer something we can do. And we turned that off. That was an issue. And I think that that's a tough decision, by the way, for a company to say, wow, there's a customer and this is not right anymore. But those are the hard decisions CEOs are going to have to make. And that's something that we're willing to do. And I think that that is very much aligned with our core values inside our company.
So you had an op-ed this week in the New York Times talking about a need to completely reinvent capitalism. You actually said that capitalism is dead. What does this mean? How do you reinvent capitalism? The Business Roundtable has been out, talking about, all these different stakeholders and that it shouldn't be just profit-driven anymore. But what does this mean? How is anything going to change? Are you going to stop doing quarterly earnings?
Well, I think, number one, we do need a new capitalism. And capitalism is dead. We need a more fair, more equitable, and more sustainable capitalism. This idea that businesses are only about one thing, money, that's what's really dead. It can't just be about shareholders anymore. It has to be about shareholders and stakeholders. Shareholders are important as stakeholders. As the CEO of Salesforce, when I think about stakeholders, is yes, my employees, my customers, my partners, our local public schools. In San Francisco, we have a horrible homeless problem. The homeless are our stakeholders. The public schools are our stakeholders. And our employees are our stakeholders. I'll tell you a story, which is I had two senior female executives came to me, set up a lunch. I didn't know why. And they said, well, you want to know why we're here? No, why are you here? Well, Mark, you're a bad dude. You pay men and women differently for the same work. I said, that is not true. I know how much you guys make, and you're paid the same as your male peers. Nope. You can do the analysis, and you're going to see that you're paying men and women differently. Well, that was a very troubling moment for me that I was wrong. We were paying men and women differently. When we did the analysis, we paid women and men differently. And we've had to adjust it now, actually several times. Initially, $3 million. Then all of a sudden, 2 years later, another $3 million. Because not only were we doing it, we bought companies. And when we bought companies, it wasn't just the culture we were buying and the technology, but we bought their pay practices. And it turns out they had this going on as well. And the World Economic Forum says it's still more than 100 years before men and women will be paid equally. Well, you know what? I believe in equal pay for equal work. And I believe men and women should be paid equally. And I'm willing to stand for that. I'm willing to audit it annually in my company. And it's connected back to this. They're a key stakeholder. We've also improved the number of women inside our company over the last 5 years, focusing on the same issue, from 28% women to 35% women, and we want to get to 50-50, because our female employees are a key stakeholder. So we should have goals on each key principle of the company. And on the broader external parts, the United Nations has done a great job with the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 very well articulated goals. I'm really working hard to map what Salesforce is doing against those 17 SDGs. I think that can be a map for how we can improve the state of the world.
So you've been ahead of the curve on a lot of this, on gender equality, going back to the Indiana issues with LGBTQ and so many things. But one thing I just don't understand is quite frankly, Salesforce now is occupying the largest skyscraper not only in San Francisco, but in the West and west of the Mississippi. And you are a CEO who obviously enjoys being a CEO. You like celebrities, you like having the tallest building in San Francisco. How do you square that in a sense?
Okay. Let me address both of those. So first of all, you're right. You know, actually, I try to enjoy every moment. I think everybody should. I'm only trying to enjoy my life. We're not here that long. We should just be trying to enjoy our life, enjoying every moment, and doing the best we can. I think that that's very much where I am in my heart. And, you know, I got a call from our LGBTQ employees in Indiana, and I was in San Francisco. You know, I was born there on Divisadero Street, and they said, well, Mark, you know, Mike Pence, the governor here, just signed a law discriminating against us. What are you going to do about it? And like, well, I don't know. What am I going to do? And then I realized, well, I had to call him and say, Mike, we're not going to invest in Indiana if you're going to discriminate against our employees, and we're going to have a rolling set of sanctions against the state of Indiana. And we got on the phone. I knew him already. He said, what does that mean? I'm like, I actually don't completely know yet, but we're going to figure it out. And I said, or why don't we just discuss this and try to resolve it, and why don't you change the law? And he said, that's a great idea. And 2 weeks later, that law was changed because our LGBTQ employees are also a key stakeholder. Okay, now, we are now the largest tech employer in San Francisco. We have 45,000 employees worldwide. We have about 10,000 in San Francisco. We were going to build a campus next to UCSF, which is very close to my heart, our scientific university, where my wife and I have a children's hospital there, and we've done about $500 million in philanthropy. And then we just got too big, and we're like, where are we going to put everybody? And we ended up buying a building in San Francisco, and then we ended up building another building, and then Boston Properties came to us and said, we're building this building, and it was actually going to be 20 stories higher than it is now. And I said, I'm not actually totally comfortable for a lot of the reasons that you just said doing this, but all right, we will take part of this building. And so we ended up leasing half of the building, and we said, but we want sustainability. So it's also not just the tallest building west of the Mississippi, it's also the largest Blackwater building and one of the most ecological in the country. Because Salesforce, I mean, the planet is one of our key stakeholders. And we are a net zero company today, and we'll be fully renewable by 2025. And my challenge is to everyone in my industry, and both industries, I guess, tech and journalism, all of your companies need to be also net zero ASAP, because we have right now 200 to 300 gigatons of carbon in the environment that needs to get sequestered, and one of the 4 key ways to sequester carbon is for sure reducing emissions, and it's something that we all need to be focused on. Maybe not for us and for the lives that we're having right now, because you know where we are in terms of our age. I'm 55, but I'm thinking about the future for our kids and our grandkids. We don't want all that carbon up in the environment.
So speaking of reinventing capitalism and doing well and doing good, it feels like you need to be doing well in order to have the luxury to make some of the choices you have. I feel like I'd be remiss in this room full of business journalists to not ask about WeWork. And I know you've been supportive of Adam Neumann. What do you think happened with WeWork? And is this perhaps the pricking of a tech bubble that has been predicted for so long?
Well, let me say, before we get into that, let me answer the first part of your question, which is that I don't actually believe what you said, that you have to wait until you're successful to do good. And let me tell you why I believe that. I was at Oracle for 10 years, my first 10 years of my kind of main career after I had started my company like Gillian was talking about, and then I worked at Apple. But I went to work at Oracle in 1986, and by 1996, I felt pretty crappy. I could hardly get up in the morning. I was not motivated. I didn't have a mission. And I felt very torn inside myself, in my own heart. And I went to see my boss, Larry Ellison, who I was working directly for, and I explained to him what I was going through, and he was mentoring me at the time. I was, 32 years old, and he said, actually 31, and then he said, you need to take a sabbatical. You've got to go figure this out. And he sent me out. And I basically folded up what I was doing, and I was the youngest VP in the company, and then I became a senior vice president. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure it out. And I went to Hawaii for 3 months and just kind of dealt with myself. And then I came back and he's like, you're still not done. And I went to India. And I actually went there with a friend of mine, Arjun Gupta, who had just quit his job working for George Soros. And he was going to start a venture capital firm called Telesoft Partners. And he had his business plan with him and he was working on it on the whole trip. And we did this whole tour through India. He was born in New Delhi, but he had never been through India. So we went to Bangalore, and we went to see this guru in Puttaparthi, and we went to Bombay, and we went to Delhi, and met with these unbelievable people. And then we ended up in the backwaters of the Arabian Sea in Trivandrum, which is part of the Kerala district, where if you like a good masala dosa, this is the place to go. And all of a sudden ended up in the back of an ashram with this incredible woman. And we're having this discussion, and Arjun is there, and all of her swamis and this kind of thing. And it's like out of a movie, you know, incense is wafting by. And then Arjun takes out his business plan and starts reading it to her. Let me tell you what I'm going to do to change the world. I'm doing Telesoft Partners. And he goes through about 100 pages of it. It's about a half an hour later, I'm like, whoa, this is fascinating. I was ready to invest. And then she says to him, but she's looking right in my eyes, Arjun, in your quest to change the world, don't forget to do something for somebody else. And it was like, bam, something went through me. And I felt that an integration. And I said, you know what my problem is? Over here during the day, I'm all about making money. And I'm at Oracle and building products, and then I'm at schools and I'm doing philanthropy over here, and I felt like I could see I was like two people, and I wanted to bring it together. I wanted to integrate. And then in my mind, I said, you know, if I ever start a company, this is 1996, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a culture that I can feel good every day and that I can do good and do well at the same time. So in 1999, actually even before that, in 1998, as we designed the company, from day number one, we put 1% of our equity, our product, our time into this Salesforce foundation. Now,
way before you turned a profit.
It was very easy. Well, we had no time, we had equity, no profit, so it was easy to do. But somehow, that was the seed. It was like a seed I was planting a tree. And then as Salesforce scaled and grew, it became the culture. A culture of giving back and a culture of generosity. But it attracted a certain kind of employee also. I didn't expect that. Other people who were going through what I was going through started to come into the company. And so the company is filled with these kind of people. And then all of a sudden, here we are, 21 years later, and that's why, you know, we've had a phenomenal shareholder return. 3,500% since we went public in 2004. That's a great shareholder return. But because of that decision, we've had a great stakeholder return. We've been able to give away over $300 million. We have done 4 million hours of volunteerism. We have run 40,000 nonprofits and NGOs for free on our service. We're a net zero company. So we had a great shareholder return, but we have a great stakeholder return. And that, I think, is very much the future of capitalism, where you can do both. Because I think that we all want to do both. I think it's built in to who we are as people, in our DNA. And I think business can be, for many people, the greatest platform for change. And that's why I'm excited about articulating this. Now, by the way, I had written a great book, you know, with a phenomenal journalism who's since passed away, Karen Southwick, called Compassionate Capitalism. When we started the company, it's the same story that I've been saying for 21 years. It's not like the story has changed. For the journalists who know me in the audience, they are tired of hearing this story. I only have one narrative, okay? For the new people, it's very exciting, okay? But if you're coming to see me in a few years, this is all I've been talking about. So that is it. Now, when it comes to new companies, like what you're talking about, one of the things that happened to us in 2004 is after 5 years, we went through a very difficult time because we went through a big recession, we had trouble raising money, then we tried to go public, we had a gun jumping charge against us from the SEC. You know, an IPO is like a spiritual cleanse, actually. All of a sudden, you're like, what is happening to me? you know, and everything bad is coming out of you, all right? And it's true, okay, because you have all these regulations that you get saddled with. And then all of a sudden, okay, you know, we're public, and it's like a rebirth. Well, that is something that is very good for a company to go through. But these companies who take too much money, okay, and wait too long, it can be, I think, toxic for them. And I've been trying to advise entrepreneurs to go public earlier and not do this, because it doesn't give them the time to get the culture right, the people right, to bring in the best team, the best CFO, the highest level of integrity throughout the whole organization. Now, for Adam Neumann, I actually think he's one of the greatest, most inspiring entrepreneurs I've ever met. I mean, when I'm around him, I am like, wow, it is awesome, okay? And I think his vision is actually right on. We even have become a huge customer of theirs. But for sure, you know, there were some issues inside the company that got cleansed. And that's, you know, where it is. And I think that's, you know, actually very healthy, because for our economic system, as companies do go public, we do want them to have the highest grade possible. And we've seen what happens when public companies are not in good shape, because when you start to take other people's money, you need to be operating at a very high level of excellence.
So there's a lot we don't have time to get to. The book written with my former colleague, Monica Langley, is amazing. I'm not going to let you off the hook quite yet.
I want to thank Monica Langley also. Monica, where are you? Would you stand up? Because she did such a great job writing the book, and really appreciate everything that she has done.
You name
I just wish Random House would have printed enough books, but we're already sold out. So.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So you name names in the book.
So these are actually worth a lot on eBay. You can get your ticket price back tonight. You know.
So homelessness. I just want to close with this. You got in a very public spat with Jack Dorsey last year. You tried to buy Twitter, which you describe in the book, and how that didn't quite work out. Then you came back 2 years later, and you supported this measure in San Francisco to tax wealthy companies to help defray the cost of caring for the homeless. And you say that you're embarrassed by what San Francisco has become in terms of the homeless population.
I am.
Now this law was passed, but you worked very hard on it. Have you talked to Jeff Bezos in Seattle about this? Like, you know, what kind of obligation does big tech really have to cities? And have we heard the last from you on this?
Well, when I'm walking into that big tower that you know, have pointed out that we have, it's not great right now in San Francisco. We have a huge gap, especially when it comes to homeless services and housing for people on extremely low income, or we call ELI. My wife is amazing. She, you know, has been working on women-led families who need housing. She has a number of homeless shelters that she has pioneered in the city. She has taken hundreds of families off the streets with proven models. And when that, and I'll tell you, when I'm inspired by what she is doing with amazing organizations like Hamilton Families, Raphael House, Larkin Street, and you can see what's possible, but it takes a huge amount of money and a huge effort to deal with what's going on in our city. So while we have done a lot, we have not done enough. And when I saw Proposition C come along, which was aligned with all of my friends who I was already working with, all of these homeless advocates, I'm like, wow, yes, you know what? We're willing to give 0.5% of our revenue to bring homeless services. It would be $30 million a month for San Francisco to help clean up our homeless problem. And we just needed to get it passed. So we said, yeah, we're going to do it. We went for it. We got 62% of the vote. It's in the courts right now. It's not fully through, so some of the money is coming through, but not all of it. And the big surprise was the amount of resistance that I got. I was shocked from actually some very close friends of mine. Some I have not been able to say who it is because I don't like to really directly address certain personalities, or, you know, I'm having private conversations with, who are actively fighting because all they're trying to do is reduce their taxes. And they want the optimal tax rate. And I'm like, does it not matter to you what's going on? And it doesn't. And that's really the point, which is we're no longer in that moment. I think that the reason why, when I went to business school, which was from 1982 to 1986 at USC, I have an undergraduate business degree from something called the Marshall School. We were told to fight taxes, that CEOs are not supposed to embrace taxes. Taxes are bad, and every CEO, fight those taxes. And CEOs are supposed to do a lot of other things too. And I think in this case, it programs people to think a certain way. And when I look at people who are suffering on our streets, when I look at our public schools, when I look at what's happening on our planet with the environment, we need to think about, what are we doing? Why are we on this planet? What is our role? How are we all improving the state of the world? I write on the book, Business is the Greatest Platform for Change. But I know that each and every person in this room is also a platform for change. Many of them got into this business because they are a platform for change in the work that they are doing. And that's why I think we aligned right away with Time Magazine. We're like, yeah, we feel that vibe. Like I was walking around the office today, and I'm like, this is the energy that I feel when I'm in Salesforce, because they are a platform for change and impact. If that's not what they're doing, I'm not interested. I'm only interested in improving the state of the world. That's what I'm looking for. And I think that that's what the alignment with me in the journalism community as well. Because as I've met and talked to so many journalists, it's not the first time we've been together talking, that's the common thread. And I think for CEOs, that shift still needs to be made for a lot of them. That's why I was inspired by the Business Roundtable. I've done a lot of presentations with the CEO of the Business Roundtable and the Business Council, which is the sister organization, the International Business Council, which is out of the World Economic Forum, where I'm a trustee, which is based on stakeholder theory, and other CEO groups around the world. I also bring CEOs together everywhere I go, and I only have this one dumb, repetitive narrative, which is focus on your stakeholders, not just your shareholders. And that is the new capitalism, and that is what we all need to do to improve the state of the world.
One very last question, because we're completely out of time. Have you changed minds? What's the reaction to your call this week for billionaires to pay more taxes?
I have changed minds. In fact, 9,000 companies have now committed to our 1% pledge. I have a lot of CEOs who have changed their practices, whether it's in volunteerism, how they use their products, how they're thinking about ethical use. But this is evangelical work, and that's fulfilling for me to see it when somebody does change and when somebody does adopt some of these practices and says, yeah, I can use my business in this incredible way. And that's what I want to do. And that's why we wrote the book, actually, because this book, Trailblazer, these are the stories to inspire others to do this same thing. And we need this. I do think as millennial CEOs and other young people come up, and we start to enter the fifth industrial revolution, which is taking this amazing fourth industrial revolution technology, but looking at how are we going to save the planet, which I see the youth doing, that's very inspiring to me. Well, I think that those CEOs who are coming, because I'm 55, right? So I started my company when I was 34. Well, those 20-year-olds, and we saw like Greta Thunberg, or the kids that are in school today, when you walk into the classrooms of fourth and fifth graders today, they have the Sustainable Development Goals on their boards. You know that. You can walk into the public schools, even here in New York, you'll see the SDGs being taught. You'll hear about, we got to get all the plastic, how are we going to get the plastic out of the ocean? Because by 2050, we're going to have more plastic in the ocean than fish. Who wants a plastic ocean? We're seeing this warming in our environment because of carbon being unsequestered. And how are we going to reduce the carbon in the atmosphere? These are the things that are how do we get more gender equality? That's one of the SDGs. That's what's being taught in the school. That's not what I learned. When I was in fourth and fifth grade, and I'm sure it's true for a lot of the people in this room because I looked around, who's here. We were not being taught the SDGs, okay? That's not where we were, okay? So, but those kids are going to integrate that, synthesize that, and they're going to hopefully lead us into a better future. And that inspires me. And honestly, it's the people in this room who inspire me too, because some of the stories that we heard tonight, well, that's work well lived, That's work that you can be proud of. And when you're carrying one of these awards out tonight, you've done a great job with the platform, that you've been given.
I'd like you all to join me in thanking Mark for a very provocative.
Thank you very much.